Hi everybody, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Transgurus. We are here again, and this time, all the four of us, we are here to talk about a very important subject, which is celebrating joy and happiness. So I will give you to Jimmy. Girl.
Hi everyone. So we have everyone here today, which is special, and I understand that our page is growing. Ella keeps us up to date from the administrative side that our page is growing, and that's a good thing. I think that worldwide there's a thirst, there's a hunger, there's a uh, an appetite for good news, spiritual good news,
Yes.
spiritual enlightenment. People are inherently trying to seek the purpose of life. And through our journey, we're offering some insights to that. And just to give a little bit of context, today I'm back at Fort Lauderdale Beach. I'm parked in the city of Fort Lauderdale public parking lot, staring at the ocean with palm trees blowing in the wind right now.
Mm.
So I'm going to have to leave at about 20 because it takes me a little longer to get to the dog resort from here than the gym.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about celebrating joy and happiness. In my life, as a transgender person, people would often ask me, "Are you happy now?" And I'm like, I never was unhappy. Last week we were talking about the ultimate upgrade. And when I was a kid growing up, I know I'm going to date myself, but there was black and white TV. And I was perfectly fine with the black and white TV. Then someone came up with a color TV. So that's kind of like how I explain my evolution. I was a black and white TV forever. Now I'm a color TV. And so
I love that.
I think the joy and the happiness is a byproduct of our self evolutionary process. There was a saying back in the day, uh, happiness is not a destination, it's a method of travel. So it's how we look at things and how we negotiate through life. Even the most challenging time. Look back at any part of your life. The vacations that you went on that were event free and everything went according to plan. You forgot about it. But I think it was Ella or somebody went on a sailboat trip where they were going to go on a sailboat trip and there was a hurricane. Yeah, that's the trip you remember. So so it's when we're stretched beyond our comfort zone is where growth occurs. So joy and happiness is a byproduct of living our life. If you live a fulfilled life and you're constantly pushing yourself and you're exploring and you're doing different things, that inherently is going to bring a sense of fulfillment, which partly is included in joy and happiness. So there's four of us here today. I'm going to cut it short and give it back to Ella, but this is a good topic and let's go.
Yeah, who wants to go next? Bobbie would like to go?
Sure. I'm so excited about this and it's a great topic and I'm so glad we want to talk about it. And I think about I'm really uh, amazed by how many people have been subscribing to the podcast. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like we went over 77,000 and and I visualize football stadiums. How many people is that? And uh, and I just and it tells me that you're subscribing because you're hoping that there's something of value that comes out of your time spent with us, and that just means so much, and it really inspires us too to make sure that we talk about things that'll have value to you. Um, and especially now, I think about celebrating joy. and celebrating happiness. And and I want to be sure that people understand that um, none of us took a happy pill this morning, and it's just like everything is wonderful, because really to transition and kind of go through the awakening kinds of things that so many of us do, that can be dark and painful, and kind of working through things that had control over you, and then you realize they're an illusion, and props get knocked out, and you're rebuilding the world. And I just want to be sure to acknowledge that that people understand. Each one of us here, I'm pretty sure I can speak for all four of us, have dark days that we have gone through, and and we're still buoyant, and we still have joy to celebrate. We still have happiness. We still have things to look forward to. And so it it looks differently when you kind of go through the valley of the shadow of death to get to the other side. And I think about all the messages that we hear in our culture growing up. And gosh, I grew up in coal mining country. It's like, oh yeah, before the sun comes up, while it's still dark, you're going to go down in this hole in the mountain, and you're going to work all day in this dark hole in the mountain, and it's going to be dark when you come back up. And it's like, yeah, your whole life is drudgery and misery, and you're going to get old and die there. It's like, well, if that's the type of life that you grew up with, it's like, oh my goodness, yeah, it's going to take a little work to find your way into joy and happiness. And that's where I've learned that joy really, like happiness, is just like comfort and something nice happen. But joy is, when you've had victory over something, or you've gotten yourself into a new place, and to get myself in a place where I am celebrating being a transgender woman. I'm not hiding that anymore. I am living that. I am living my dream. And oh my gosh, how can I not be full of joy and happiness about that? And and I was just thinking, just today, what are the things I have to celebrate today? And there's just so many things. Like I talk about how I've got four children. Well, two of them were twins, and my twins, boy-girl twins, Sarah and Noah, they turned 44 years old today. I'm at that age where it's kind of where, you got to be careful when you start asking people how old their children are. It's like, oh God, you must be really old. Yeah, 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 it must be, but I don't feel that way. But it's their birthdays, and I've talked with both of them, and they're just my favorite people. All four of them. When I am longing for company and companionship, and my soul is aching, like to have a really deep, meaningful conversation, it's like, oh my gosh, Sarah, no, they're the first people that come to my kids. And I just think how full of joy that makes me, that my favorite human beings on the planet are my own family. And that fills me with joy. And it just happens today. They're all of my kids are in their 40s. So I don't know how that happened, because I'm entirely too young to have children in their 40s, but it happened.
You're not the only
Yeah,
one.
and then and then I had oh I just one of my favorite poets and authors. Uh, he's queer. He's a gay poet, and on his social media page today, he was talking about me, and he said I'm magic. When he thinks of me, he thinks of someone who is magic, and I just felt like that was like a kiss from God. That tells me that there's somebody in my life that I've had a transformational influence on, that something is very different about them because we've known each other. And that's one of the great things about being a teacher, is that um, you know you, you're you put yourself in a position where you want to have influence on people, and for them to come back and tell you that your course was transformational. That's another thing that happened today. Somebody said, "Oh, yeah, I just think your course is so transformational," and those are like those are like kisses from God to me. It was like, oh my gosh, I've made a difference in this person's life, and so those are. Oh, and then I had somebody else call me up. It was just a lobbyist wanting to know if I would be willing to do an interview with the New York Times, and it's like, are you kidding? I'll talk to anybody anytime about anything. So yeah, sure. Here's, and but it's just today. I'm just talking today. There's so many things that have filled me with joy, but they're the result of experiencing the victory of transitioning and trying to vibrate in authenticity and at those highest levels. And so I just, I just think about the things that I celebrate and fill me with joy. And they happen all the time. If I just open my eyes and look and say, holy smokes, that really means a lot that you think that I'm magic. Thank you so much. That made my day, actually, when you said that. So, anyhow, back to you, Ella. So.
Thank you. Raj, your turn.
My turn. Well, hi, everybody. And I love the fact that we continue to grow. It's wonderful. So, joy. When I think of joy, I think of another word that just, I don't know, it just goes deep into my soul. And that word is bliss. BLISS, bliss, blissfulness. And so, I mean, it's the same thing, joy, bliss, but that's like a word that just resonates with me when I think of joy. Right away, I think of bliss, blissfulness. So, as a human being born into this earthly realm, I've experienced all sorts of emotions: joy, sadness, anger, frustration. I mean, they're all feelings that I think most human beings, if not all human beings, have experienced. The thing about joy is it's a feeling that I think so many of us just love to have and want and desire. And when I think about the journey of my life and the ups and downs, even the really, really hard times, even in those hard times, I can think of moments where I had joy. So sometimes I think joy is there even when you're going through a rough time to get you through. It's almost like, you know, the the solace, if you will, in a moment where there might be chaos, that you can still say, "Oh my God, but there's things to be joyful about." And I do feel joy, and it gives you the encouragement and the inspiration to keep going. So, for me, I think that from a little kid, like oftentimes I'll have flashbacks of growing up. And, I don't know why we do this as human beings. I think quite a few beings do this, is we tend to focus on the negative.
Hmm.
A day, you can be going through your day and everything is flowing, things are going really nicely, and you come in contact with that one asshole, you know, that one, that one dick. Pardon my language, but that one person that just gets under your skin, and it's like someone that rains on your parade. And most of the times we will, at the end of the day, think about that one person that got under our skin and fucked up our day, as opposed to all the other wonderful things that happened where it was flowing. I don't know why we do it. I think maybe from young, as children, the world starts, because when you're really young, I think all of us can relate to this. It's like, the world is new, and like you're curious and you're happy about the simple things. And then you have your family unit and your friends and your community and the world that starts to like get in and unfortunately oftentimes that those things are taken away, the innocence of being a child. So for whatever reason, we tend to do it. So fast forward to today in my life, when I find myself going down that rabbit hole, I now am conscious enough to say, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, I'll talk to myself and I'll stop myself and I will purposely look for things in my life to be joyful about, to be grateful, to be joyful, and just purposely, intentionally try to be joyful. And I think it makes a big difference when, like I said, you're going through difficult times, because let's face it, we live in a world where it's so much going on and there's a lot of different people and everyone's vibrating at their own vibrational energy and, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot of things. I always say there's over 8 point something billion people in the world, and that means there's 8 point something billion worlds, because everyone's world is in their mind and how they perceive it. So I think, if you can practice, because it takes practice, to really look for the things that bring you joy and try experiencing more joyful moments, joyful feelings, just the experience of joy and bliss, the journey will be a lot more nicer than, doing the opposite. Ella?
You're absolutely right. I'm hearing some very interesting things. And I have to say that when we talk about joy, when we talk about living, and Bobbie was talking about, let's put it this way, her day and her beautiful things of today, I will never stop thinking about, the past is gone, the future is not here. The only thing you have to feel is the present. And that it is one thing. And the second thing is that very much the way you are we're wired, positiveness and mostly negativeness, the more you attract those things. I have to say, I've had, bad times in my life like everybody else. But I am stopping, and I've made for me a kind of a very, very important point that when negativity hits me, first of all, I try to understand what it is about. Second of all, it's usually a challenge which I have to get over it. And the joy of having gone over that challenge is something which brings to me a lot of happiness. And I know that, so I always do it. But if I get some negativity, which is really, sometimes it's just, that 5 minutes or 5 seconds where your brain goes and starts thinking something stupid. And in those moments, I just go away. Bad thought, go away. You don't have any place to be here. Go away. And usually it helps. But most of the time, I have to say, the negativity which comes from the outside, mostly from the outside, what Raj told that person which ran on my parade, it is up to you to allow it to rain in your parade, because it is your life. It's not his or her life. They have got their own life. They've got their own parade. But my parade, I tell who's coming. And if someone makes a critic of me, I may or I may not, mostly of the time, I may not accept that criticism, because if it is a positive criticism, I will probably, look at it and say, yeah, probably I've got better, I can do better in my life. I mean, I'm not God. I don't do everything perfect. Probably I can do better. Learn from it. Go to the next step. If it is a negative criticism, just to bank on you, because, and the difference between a negative and a positive criticism is that a positive criticism usually is a criticism with an what do you do afterwards? How can you make yourself better? And then negative criticism is usually something which just banks against you. And usually it's based on some kind of angle of view, which is probably not yours anyway. So is it really the right attitude to accept them? I mean, it's up to you. Don't let those, put your shield, a really big shield, and protect yourself. So with those words, I'll leave to everybody. And I think that Jimmy has to go soon. So Jimmy, go ahead and have your word.
No, I like what I'm hearing, and Raji said some interesting things that I'd like to expand on. So there's we need to, through thought, everything is done through thought. If our brain has a negative default setting, then that's the result of repeated thoughts to reinforce that position. So if we're going to rewire our brain to have a positive default position, meaning we view things, there is a way to see all things in a positive light. There is a way. It can be done through positive affirmations, through our self-talk. And this is how I want to explain it to y'all. Imagine each thought is a thread. So you have one thought, there's one thread. Two thoughts similar to reinforce these positive affirmations. You got two threads, then another one, three threads. Then you end up with a string. You keep on going. Then you end up with a cable. Then you end up with a rope. Then you end up with like a tugboat rope, where you now have rewired your brain to see everything as a possibility. And that everyone in life is faced with challenges, some more than others, but the only person who doesn't have any challenges in life is they're 6 feet under. Everyone's experiencing challenges in life. So these challenges are sometimes disguised as problems, but they're actually the ability to grow our problem-solving skills. And how I look at it is a person's, the way a person deals with problems has a direct impact on our quality of life, and that includes joy.
Yeah.
So there was a motivational speaker by the name of Dennis Waitley, who's up there with Zig Ziglar back in the day. And I remember he was talking about the POWs during the Vietnam War. And so here these guys are in some kind of POW camp, however big their cell was. And in their mind, they would play a full game of golf without leaving their cell, without having a golf ball or a golf club or a tee or nothing. But in their mind, they could play an entire round of golf. So if a POW can play an entire round of golf in a POW camp in Vietnam, imagine what you can do on the streets of the United States. And I got maybe about 10 minutes and then I got to go. But this is all good stuff. We can all, I think joy is a byproduct of living a fulfilled life. Live a fulfilled life. Figure out what floats your boat. And another thing I wanted to mention too, we all need to evolve. Everyone talks about the guy that gave you a hard time or something. We all need to evolve to a point that we no longer have any buttons. I don't have any buttons, so no one can push any buttons. So, you know, I don't have any triggers. Evolve to the point that you have no buttons and you have no triggers.
It's
And then you're on your way to self-mastery,
yeah,
Ella.
absolutely. I do agree with that. What I call the shield. Raj, you want to go?
Yeah, I guess I'll go. So, I'll just say this: for without the darkness, we wouldn't know the light. Everything is for a reason. And we human beings are built to have different emotions. So they exist for a reason. And I like Jimmy had said something about like looking at everything as an opportunity. And it is really how you look at things, the perception and how you look at something. You can look at it as a block that's not going to allow you to go and achieve and grow, or you can look at it as, okay, this is a temporary thing, but I can find a way around it, over it, under it, you know, through it sometimes. So I think again, the power is really within us, and also knowing that you will be able to handle anything really that comes your way when you realize that the power is within you. There's a saying that it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you handle what happens to you in life. And so that's I hold on to that dearly, because you know, every day, you know, you go out into the world, we all go out into the world, and there's going to be things that come our way that maybe we make us uncomfortable, or, you know, we fear, or we don't like. And it's just an opportunity to be able to say, okay, this is a growth moment. This is a moment for me to decide whether or not I want to deal with it or I'm not going to deal with it, because you know, it's we have a choice. We have a choice. And I think a lot of people forget that you don't have to deal with a particular thing necessarily if you don't want to. And how you deal with it and how you let it affect you is the power within you. Ella?
Absolutely. And that power is very important.
Yeah.
And mainly the power of thought.
Yeah,
Dr. Bobbie.
that's so funny. I completely agree with what everybody's saying, and I'm so glad Raji brought up the point about it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to
Yeah.
what happens to us. And oh my gosh, is that ever the secret? Because, you know, I think about, I know all of us have experienced a really tragic loss, and we have stuff that we can grieve and mourn. And it may be stuff that happened years ago and or just real recently. And what I've what I have noticed in learning how to grieve those real important losses is to just let that pass through me, feel it. You know, it's going to be here visiting me for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. I'll just feel it. I thought I was done with it, but let me just, because you never know what's going to trigger it. It's probably a song or something. And, you know, I'll let that wave pass over me. But then that really makes me joyful because I didn't ignore it. I didn't try to repress it. I didn't try to not feel it. I didn't try to numb it up. It was like I acknowledge it. Yes, that's a part of life, and I experience it. And it's funny how that can fill me with joy. And it was funny. I just you might have seen me reach over here to shut off my phone a minute ago. I was just talking about how you know somebody called and wanted to know if I'd be willing to talk to the New York Times. And holy smokes, they are calling me. Well, when we're through with this, I'll call them back. But I mean, that kind of stuff, you know, that kind of stuff would even happen to me. That really does fill me with joy, and it tells me that uh, I have made the right choice. I have when I made the decision to start living true to myself. That opened up the whole universe of joy to experience that again and to find those things. And so when I made that decision, and then there's somebody that wants to talk to me from a newspaper because I made that decision so long ago, and they want to talk about conversion therapy, and that has just really done so many people in all over the world, and I'm very passionate about eliminating from the world, and so it's like I've been hurt by that, but I've been able to turn that around where uh, I I am doing a lot to rid the world of conversion therapy right now. That makes me really happy, and I know that people are going to be better off for that. And so, I I guess what I'm saying is joy looks a whole lot different now. It's sort of like I feel like the country is having an identity crisis. There's people that's, oh no, can we please live like the way it was in the 40s and 50s? And then there's a whole bunch of people saying, oh no, there's so much better. No, no, we're woke. We're woke. We don't want to do that. And and it's like as trans people, we know a thing or two about identity crisis. And so I just think that this is a really interesting time. And no matter how old we are, we have been chosen to experience awakening. We've been chosen to find joy in the journey. We've been chosen to be a light in the darkness, even in our old age. And that is another thing that just fills me with joy. I can respond to the animosity by becoming joyful to it. I don't have to cave into it. And so I guess that's the point I want to make. It's Raji and Jimmy and Ella are exactly right. It's all how we respond to the things that happen to us. And that's all within our power. And we have the power to be joyful about that. So.
Absolutely. I would like to finish actually this round here with with something which is connecting to others and spending, I mean, joy, yes, it is you, but it is the people you live with, your friends, your and to spread the joy, to spread positiveness to other people. This is so important as well, because it's helping other people. I mean, I like to do that as far as I can, is to give positiveness to other people, to be supportive of other people when they need, which is a way which makes me joy too. It brings me quite a lot of joy. And within our community, there are many people which have got, they don't have it so easily. And I hope in the future that I even do more than I've done until now. But I try to be a little bit joyful too, and try to bring joy to other people too. That is, I think it is very, very important. And it's part of, I mean, I don't do it I do it for me, because I'm bringing other people's joy and presence and nice things. It gives me a hell of a lot too, It's for everybody. So let's go to a very fast round, and then I think we finished for today. We've done our time. Jimmy, you go and have a last word.
I'll just close by saying this. As you all know, I'm an arborist here in South Florida, and I have a customer, a very good customer, and they got a bumper sticker on their car, and it says simply this: "Don't postpone joy."
Yes.
Ella.
Yes. Raji.
So, Ella, I think you said this. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow isn't here yet. All we have is the present, the eternal now. And today, a friend of mine sent me a song that I loved. It was from 1989. And I started to go down the rabbit hole. I call it the rabbit hole, because that was the year that I had to leave home. My father and I, we weren't getting along. It was getting really tumultuous in the home. And I knew it was time for me to leave the nest, if you will. And So it was a time in my life where it was scary. It was also very exciting because I was stepping out into the world on my own. And so I started going down the rabbit hole. When I say going down the rabbit hole, what I mean is like starting to like feel a little regret over the way things went. And then in the middle of it, I stopped and I said, but wait a minute. My dad and I, before he passed away, we had our moment. We had our love moment. So I was able to, even in that moment of like feeling a little regret and sad or bittersweet, I was still able to find joy. And so try your best in whatever situation you're in to look for the things that bring you joy. Ella.
Bobbie, your turn.
Oh, I just love this so much, and I'm really thankful for today. I just remembered something else really wonderful that happened today was that um, I've become a patient of a chiropractor that's really been helping me work on my energy channels, and you know, you have this energy channel that runs from your pineal gland down to your sacrum, your tailbone, and spirituality and energy and things are really so important in our journey. But you know, if you've got injuries where you've got your spine or your tailbone or something like that, anyhow. So it's helped me an awful lot, and I've been trying to introduce him to this other person that's really helping me, a tantra yoga person, and they're doing the same things, and they're both talking about energy and coming in contact and growing your consciousness and awareness and presence and the divine feminine and all these wonderful, wonderful aspects. And I've been trying to get them together, and I finally did to talk to each other because they both have businesses where I think they would do better if they knew about each other. And so the chiropractor writes today, says, "Oh, I finally met Stacy, and if it weren't for you, she'd be my new favorite woman." And you know, he's just schmoozing. I know I'm not his favorite woman, but that was so kind of him to say that, and that was really a gift, and it really made me happy. And I knew he was just, flirting. But anyhow, but it just made me happy that somebody would offer that to me and say something like that today. So again, it just fills me with joy because I know I'm busy in my community. I have friends, I have people love me. I'm acting on that. I'm developing that. I'm leaving my neighborhood a better place. And it's like there's so much to celebrate. And I'm really glad too that I can be with Raji and Jimmy and Ella at least once a week to celebrate with you all too, because you really help with that. And that would be the last thing I would just encourage everybody to find yourself a Jimmy, Raji, and Ella.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
Well, with those words, and it has been a really quite a nice show. I wish you all loads and loads and loads and loads of joy and contentment and gratitude. And by the way, I painted my fingernails in gold for the Midas touch.
Ooh, I love them. They look gorgeous.
And you know what? Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful day. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Love, peace, and blessings.
Yeah.